Hello, and thank you for joining me today to celebrate some of the everyday heroes partnering to stop the spread of invasive plants. Faced with the seemingly intractable problems invasive plants create, these folks are beacons, lighting the path forward. They're not superheroes in capes, but everyday people like you and me working to safeguard nature, our life support system, and helping to shape a better future for all of us. And in these times, we need heroes. The world is changing. Every day we see political instability, economic uncertainty, and changing climate bringing fires, floods, and unpredictable seasons. Wildlife populations are declining, and invasive species are accelerating the stresses already placed on our land and water systems. We are living in a moment where evidence is confronting us with something deeply uncomfortable. The gardens we love have become pathways for harm. No gardener wants to hear this. Gardening is how many of us find joy, create beauty, and build community. Yet we know that many familiar and sometimes beloved ornamentals are invasive plants, causing harm to our ecosystems, our economy, and public well being. This is not about blame, it's about seeing something we didn't see before and using that knowledge to do better. Somewhere along the way, plants became products selected for novelty, color, hardiness, and convenience, and marketed as if they were interchangeable with existing native plants. In that shift, we lost sight of something essential. Plants play specific roles in living systems. Plants move energy and nutrients through complex food webs and, in the process, have formed long evolved partnerships with fungi, soil organisms, pollinators, and other animals. When we choose invasive plants that disrupt these long established relationships, negative consequences ripple outward. Recognizing that gardening has created a pathway for harm can feel overwhelming. But acknowledging this truth does not signal an end to gardening. It moves us toward gardening with intention, gardening that supports, restores, and strengthens the living world around us. Gardeners and everyone who grows, sells, designs with, or manages plants can be heroes, powerful agents of prevention and healing. We are far from helpless bystanders. We are participants, partners in nature. Gardening that protects and heals nature begins with understanding the role plants play in natural systems. Well-known scientists like Dr. Doug Tallamy have helped reveal how plants shape the very architecture of life and determine which insects and birds can call a place home. His research has shown us why plant choice truly matters. But he's not alone. Many lesser-known scientists are doing equally critical work. Quiet heroes like Nadia Kavelin walk our landscapes documenting when horticultural plants begin to slip beyond garden gates and do harm. Her research is strengthened by everyday heroes, the land stewards, naturalists, community scientists, who notice unfamiliar seedlings in a ravine and make the effort to report them. Experts like Stephen Smith can then use this evidence and build prioritization lists, practical guides that help growers, gardeners, and landscape managers recognize high-risk species and make informed decisions. The work of these heroes gives us the knowledge we need. Our responsibility is to use it. Science matters most to us when we can use it, and educators, including master gardeners, play a critical role in translating research into practical, usable advice. People like Claudette Sims work to explain the harms caused by invasive plants and dispel persistent myths like it's not invasive in my backyard. Her efforts are visible in shifting social media conversations, where the public is now jumping in to point out invasive species and share credible information on how to manage them. In Manitoba, Master Gardener Linda Dietrich brought together gardeners and professionals to talk openly about invasive plants and their management. The result was increased awareness and real change in the broader gardening community. Claudette and Linda are just two among hundreds of educators working every day to turn information into understanding. And that understanding is what turns knowledge into action. Changing how people see gardening is just one powerful driver of change. Writers like Monica Rekola and artist Rita Rekola help people reimagine gardening, not as decoration, but as a relationship with nature. They influence what people notice, what they value, and ultimately look for and ask for in garden centers. To protect the living systems we depend on, we must shift the values that guide our choices. That's what these heroes help us do. Culture shifts when what we value shifts. And those shifts deepen when people begin sharing their own stories because personal stories show firsthand the ecological, financial, and emotional consequences of invasive plants. When someone explains how a perfect ground cover became a perfect nightmare, the issue stops being abstract. It becomes familiar, relatable, and harder to dismiss. Journalist Julianne Lebrecht recognizes the power of stories. She's gathered accounts from across the country, connecting evidence with lived experience and giving voice to the people confronting invasive plants in their own communities. Stories change minds, and stories change behavior. But to really change how we garden, people need alternatives. And this is where everyday heroes like Abby Obenshin come in. Abby has created a Grow Me Instead guide for her community of Sault Ste. Marie. It gives gardeners practical, beautiful, and ecologically sustainable alternatives to invasive plants. Across the country, more regional Grow Me Instead guides are emerging, each one giving people the confidence to choose plants that support nature rather than undermine it. Because knowing what to plant is what empowers action. With these choices, landscape designers are proving something important. You can create beautiful, resilient, biodiversity supporting gardens without invasive plants. Designers like Sean James show that ecological design is not a constraint, it's an opportunity. His work is reshaping expectations for what gardens can be and showing us that a landscape design can be a lever for change. For those who aren't professional designers, authors and experts like Lorraine Johnson and Sheila Kola have given us garden plans that translate ecological science into guidance everyday gardeners can use. I want to take a moment and honor Sheila Kola. Her research has deepened our understanding of plant pollinator relationships, and her recent passing has been a profound loss. These heroes have shown us what regionally appropriate gardening looks like. And while we can't all write books, we can all put ideas into practice and inspire greater change. And change is exactly what's happening within communities of practice across Canada. Within garden clubs, volunteers like Leanne Crane, Barb Wilson, and Marie Decker are updating plant sale guidelines, redesigning public gardens, and modernizing horticultural society logos to reflect a changing understanding and evolving values. These leaders work within trusted organizations, and their choices ripple outward, shaping entire communities. Change is also coming from within the horticultural trades. Some nurseries have voluntarily stopped selling well-recognized invasive plants. Some retailers are adding labels to help customers make informed choices. Some leaders within industry associations like Art van den Enden are working to dry up demand for high-risk species. These early adopters show that responsible horticulture isn't just possible, it's already happening. All this voluntary action is important, but it has its limits. That's why ecologists like Dr. Brendan Samuels and the Ecological Design Lab are calling for regional bylaws to address the gaps created by uneven provincial rules and the lack of coordinated federal oversight. They recognize that legally protecting biodiversity and preventing the spread of invasive plants are essential for safeguarding ecosystems. But legislative action requires public pressure. And public pressure can only increase thanks to engaged citizens like Lynn Pattenode. She is calling for updated regulations and clearer guidance in her city of Ottawa. Her kind of local leadership builds public pressure, and that public pressure is driving change. The results of growing pressure are visible across Canada. Quebec has proposed a new provincial regulation to restrict the sale and spread of invasive plants. Nanaimo is drafting a new local ordinance to prohibit the sale of high-risk species, and municipalities like Ottawa, Kingston, Thunder Bay, they've adopted yard-level measures to tackle the problem. But importantly, in the small municipality of Bluewater, councillors looked squarely at the issue and said, "We can't do this alone." They recognized that the scale of the problem is greater than any community can bear. So they took a heroic step. They passed a CCIPR-drafted petition calling on the federal government to fix Canada's fragmented, inconsistent, and reactive approach to invasive plant prevention. Across all these stories, the common threads are clear. Heroes act on evidence. They act ahead of policy. They show the market is ready for change, and they prove change is possible. But as Bluewater recognized, even heroic work has limits. No single gardener, no single retailer or municipality can do this alone. Prevention requires partnerships. And this is where CCIPR comes in. We are a coalition of everyday heroes, volunteers from across the country working to stop the spread of invasive plants at the source. We recognize that Canada needs better coordination across jurisdictions, shared, reliable plant information, mandatory screening of plants in and entering the trades, legislative reform to prevent the sale of plants known to cause harms. And so we've created a roadmap forward. And you can read more details on our CCIPR website. CCIPR recognizes that real change comes from individuals acting together to protect nature, the living systems we depend on. Every one of us can be an everyday hero by helping to prevent the spread of invasive plants. So I invite you to join us. Add your voice, share the evidence, share the solutions. Help transform individual heroic efforts into a coordinated national response, guided by science and by our shared commitment to care for our living world. Thank you very much, and I'll stop sharing now.